Welcome back to Twin Football, the YouTube channel that covers the NFL, Premier League, and college football. Thank you very much for joining us. Today's episode is going to be all about the final run-in of the Premier League, but we have to start with the news of the day. It is Sunday, May 18th, and that is Jamie Vardy's last game at the King Power Stadium. Jamie Vardy, of course, back in 2015, 2016, led the line for the Foxes on their historic run to the Premier League title. This is a channel that got started because my twin brother and I love the NFL, love the Premier League, and love college football. And we felt there wasn't a space to cover all of those leagues as a fan. We were fans of all of them. It is a growing characteristic of the United States, falling in love with the Premier League over the last 10 years. Obviously, the NFL has such a huge fan base here. But this team in 2015, 2016 transcended sport and was such a great story that sports fans all over the world had to follow. 5,000 to 1 odds on to win the Premier League. They had just battled relegation the year before, were able to survive, change managers, and go ahead and win the Premier League. It was a absolutely fantastic story, and Jamie Vardy's last game at the King Power was today against Ipswich. Of course, he got on the score sheet what turned out to be the game-winning goal early on in the first half, his 200th goal for the club. You can see that Premier League trophy over his shoulder there. He had many chances to leave over the years to some of the best clubs in all of Europe, and he decided to stay. He went on and got the Golden Boot a couple years later, 2019-2020 season, for scoring the most goals in the Premier League. He won the FA Cup over Chelsea at Wembley. As you can see, that trophy down by his feet. He went on to get his England cap. He's the oldest ever Golden Boot winner. His career is one of the most talked about historic careers, getting his start so low in league football and working his way up league by league and finally getting his shot in the Premier League at such an old age for most players in the Premier League and becoming such a superstar. He stayed with his club and he deserves all of the respect and all of the love that he's going to get, and he can now finally start his, not necessarily his retirement party. He might still go on and play, but his retirement party from the top levels of the game. So well deserved, and the best of luck to him in his next chapter, but definitely had to start the video off with that. Now we can go ahead and dive into the meat of the video, which is all about the run-in in the Premier League. We are 1 week away from the last set of games of the season, and the fight for Champions League is one of the best that I can remember. So due to all of the recent success and the expansion of the Champions League, but mainly the success of England in the different competitions, obviously you have United and Tottenham playing in the Europa League final, Chelsea in the Conference League, Arsenal making it to the semi-final, obviously City winning Champions League a couple years ago as well. Villa played fantastic in the Champions League this year. They're near the top. Obviously, Liverpool topped the group, but Villa up there with them. England has now secured 5 spots in next year's Champions League from league standing play. Obviously, one of United or Tottenham will get in as winners of the Europa League here on Wednesday. But we are fighting for the top 5 to make the Champions League next year. Obviously, congratulations to Liverpool for wrapping up the league a couple weeks early. They will get their final guard of honor when they kick off on Sunday to end the season. Arsenal played Newcastle today in a great back and forth game. Newcastle going to feel hard done by because they couldn't get over the line in the first half and get a goal. Some good saves from Raya early on, but they fall in that one, still sit third behind Arsenal, who basically clinched a top 3 spot. Obviously, City could jump them with the games in hand, but Arsenal basically done and dusted there. They have the second spot locked in of the Champions League. So that now leaves 3 spots for 5 teams. Newcastle will host Everton on the final day at St. James's Park. You know that stadium is going to be rocking. One, the last home game of the season, and 2, a win and you are in scenario for the Magpies. I think that for sure they will get that done. So now that leaves us 2 spots left open for a Champions League between City, Villa, Chelsea, and Nottingham Forest. Let's look at City first. They currently sit here in 6th position with 2 games at hand. The game against Bournemouth will be on Tuesday, and that will be KDB's last game at the Etihad before they travel on Sunday to take on Fulham. So, starting with that game on Tuesday, obviously, City coming off of that okay performance, lackluster performance against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final, which they lost. It's KDB's last home game. They are going to be firing on all cylinders for that one. Bournemouth sit middle of the table. They're going to finish 10th. They're going to finish 11th. Really, those are the 2 options for them. I got City winning that game handily, and that will push them up onto 68 points, currently in 3rd, which would push everyone down because they would be in 3rd position here going into the final Sunday where everyone plays at the same time. So that means City basically just need a draw, you would think, with their goal difference there to secure Champions League football away to Fulham. So you're going to lean definitely towards them. I think they can definitely get a draw in that game. I actually will predict a draw in that game as the last game there at Craven Cottage of the season, and Fulham have been on decent form of late. So that will push them to 69 points with at least a plus 25 goal differential because they're obviously going to win against Bournemouth and then draw against Fulham. So that will put them on 69 points with the best goal differential of these remaining teams. So that means between Chelsea, Villa, and Forest, they're going to be fighting for one spot. Obviously, Chelsea play Forest, one of those teams. If it's a draw, Forest will definitely be out, as they also sit 1 point behind everybody going into this with not the best goal difference, but they are at home. And Chelsea don't have Nicholas Jackson. If Forest win, they give themselves a shot, and they basically take Chelsea out of the mix. So one of those 2 teams is automatically going to be out because they play each other. And that leaves Villa. What can Villa do against United? They play at Old Trafford, the last game of the season. And I think that is going to severely depend on what happens on Wednesday in the Europa League final, because Spurs have had United's number over the last year and a half or so. I think they've beaten them 3 times on the bounce. That's going to be a massive, massive game. And you will either come back to Old Trafford with the Europa League after a absolute torrid season, or you will come back without the Europa League with an absolute torrid season. I mean, they sit 16th in the Premier League. This is really their only shot here at any type of celebration or glory for the season. Obviously, a spot in the Champions League is on the line there. If United go on and win the Europa League on Wednesday, Villa will cruise at Old Trafford because it'll be all celebratory. The league really doesn't matter. Villa will have more time off. They had very little travel in comparison to United having to go to Spain on Wednesday, and it really won't matter what the result is. They're finishing in the bottom half of the Premier League regardless. They're finishing in a poor position regardless, but they have the Europa League. If United do not win the Europa League, those fans are going to, one, be extremely upset they gave Tottenham a trophy for the first time in, 40 years for Spurs, which is obviously a disappointment that nobody wants to give them. They also have had their worst season in 40 years themselves, Manchester United. So they're going to have to go out on a winning note there. And I think that will be a closer contest. I might still edge Villa in that, but definitely a more scrappy, close contest that would worry me as a Villa fan. So if I'm Villa, I'm kind of pulling for United here on Wednesday against Tottenham. And especially with that goal difference issue, I mean, only +9, they are the worst on goal difference. If all these other teams play it out, they're going to miss out even if they do win. So they're going to need some help. I think they will get it with a Chelsea draw. And so it's going to be about, can they go and win at Old Trafford? I do think Chelsea and Forest will draw. No Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea. You just can't give any support for Nicholas Jackson here. Chelsea going into the final 3 games, away to Newcastle, home to United, and away to Forest, 3 of the most important games of the season. Almost more so than the Conference League final against Betis in a couple of weeks because of what was on the line, a Champions League position. And after your team goes down 1-0, you stare down the center back and you throw an elbow. I mean, it had to be a red card. Obviously, He looked at the ball when he was doing it, but you can't do that. It had to be read. And now he misses the three most important games of Chelsea's season. Yes, he's going to be 24 this year. He's a young player, but you just can't do that and expect to not have consequences. I think that consequence is a draw against Nottingham Forest and a hope that United can pull something against Villa, because that is the only way that Chelsea will have a chance here to get into the Champions League. And there you have it, my review of the run-in. Enjoy the week. We got the Europa League on Wednesday, Premier League on Tuesday, and on Sunday. It is going to be a great run-in, and it is so good to be back. Enjoy the football.